Licked the back of a toad this week, and next month I'm going to do an ayahuasca retreat. Hold my breath for 6 days in the outer Himalayas, buried up to me neck. Gonna keep trying because none of them seem to work. All you need is trust. La 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 la. Mr. Lennon, you were close, but not close enough. Letter T, trust. P for imperfect. In this moment, I'm going to have to trust. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Is love all you need? Well, we're going to find out in P for imperfect. Letter T, we're going with trust. So if I'm talking about trust and it's important on the men's personal development journey, why have I opened with a wonderfully fantastic rendition of the Beatles' All You Need Is Love? Because I think they were close when they said all you need is love. However, I think all you need is trust. Right? So think about it. Bear with me on this, right? The men's personal development journey. Trust. Well, let's not look at it from there. Let's look at it from a global scale. If we lived in a world where people could trust, the world would be a very different place, right? If one country could trust, another country wouldn't invade them. We'd have no need for armies. We'd have no need for weapons. If I could trust that you would look after me when I'm old or ill, and you could trust that I would, we wouldn't have to stack the chips we need to stack for a rainy day. We wouldn't be so worried about the rainy days because we know each one of us would look after the other ones. We could trust that. You know, if I can walk down the road and trust that I'm not going to be attacked, I don't need to arm myself, right? Trust is what we need. Just think about it. Trust. Everything gets better if we trust, because we live in a state of perpetual fear, pretty much, right? Naturally. I mean, not just, you know, there is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist in me that thinks governments and advertising companies do great from us fearing, you know, whether it's fearing that we're going to be attacked or fearing we won't fit in or fearing that, oh my God, if someone sees my wrinkles, I'm not going to be loved anymore, so I better get that cream, right? It's based on fear of rejection, fear of death, fear of pain. Fear of wasted time, fear of lack of resources. Everything comes down to fear, and that's not just a conspiracy. That's, we function through fear. We're an animal that was born to live on the extremities of this quite dangerous and fragile world, right? So fear is what keeps us alive. Fear is what keeps us alert. So we need more of the opposite. And what's the opposite of trust? Well, if you ask a lot of people, what's the opposite of fear? People will say bravery, not being afraid, courage. Well, it's not, is it? It's trust, right? The opposite of fear is trust. If I can trust no one's going to attack me, I don't need to be fearful. If I can trust tomorrow's going to be a great day, I don't have to be afraid what's going to happen. If I can trust I'm going to get a job, I ain't going to have to be fearful about whether my money's going to run out, right? Trust is the opposite of fear. So that's just on a micro level. On a personal level, why is it so important to men, particularly on the personal development journey, on what we call doing the work? Well, because a lot of the things involved in men's personal development do have a kind of air of mystery about them, almost secrecy. So let me explain that, and I'll use what I know as an example, okay? The New Warrior Training Adventure from the Mankind Project. You know, I often come back to that, talking about that, because that's what I was involved with. That's what I am involved in. You know, I know most of what I learned from there, you know, so I know it pretty well. And so it's a good frame of reference for me to talk about these things from. The New Warrior Training Adventure, or what we call the NWTA in the Mankind Project, is a 3-day immersive experience. You know, some would say it's a workshop, some would say it's a retreat. None of those things really fit as a useful definition. There's something else. It's something else. And what that something else is, we don't talk about. And we encourage men not to talk about. Right? We encourage men, we ask men to retain confidentiality of what they experienced on that weekend. And that's not because it's secret in some weird culty kind of way, right? Or it's not that anything happens on there so weird we don't want anyone to talk about it. It's because I wouldn't say to you, mate, go and see this film. It's fantastic, right? You're going to love it. And this happens, and then 5 minutes in this happens, and then 5 minutes in this happens, and then this happens at the end. It wouldn't work, right? So we ask people to keep confidentiality because to get the full impact, you need to be going into something you don't understand completely. And that works on two levels. One, it works as the experience once you're there. But as with the NWTA, you could be turning up on a weekend, there's going to be 100 men there, potentially. And a lot of men, particularly when we're boys, have been brutalized by other men physically, emotionally, or socially. And it's not uncommon to find men who don't trust other men at all, or even completely, can range right from, I don't trust men at all, to, yeah, I'd like to keep them at a distance because I always feel that they're hyper competitive or something, right? To the stage where some men are like, I don't even know if I like being a man. Right? So when you sign up to something like that, to the NWTA, already we're asking you to step into a new way of being, because we're asking you to trust men. We're asking you to trust us, right? And so some of the work is already being done, right? And that's the same with a lot of the things within men's personal development. There'll be these bits that you don't understand, and you're going to have to just trust. Right? You can break it down to just books. New book you're reading, you want to buy. You kind of, when you spend your money, you're trusting there's going to be something useful in there for you. You sign up to a workshop, you're trusting that it's going to have some models and modalities that will work for you. You're trusting there might be some healing there, right? And if we don't trust, it's a two-way street, right? If we don't trust, the likelihood is we're not going to get what we could from it, because we're always keeping a little bit of a distance, and that sets up what's called spiritual shopping, right? Like, oh yeah, I licked the back of a toad this week, and next month I'm going to do an ayahuasca retreat, and then I'm going to hold my breath for 6 days in the outer Himalayas, and then I'm going to be buried up to my neck, and I tried this dance formation, I tried this, and yeah, I'm just going to keep trying because none of them seem to work, right? We all know that person. We've all been that person, maybe. And that's not a reflection of saying that any of these things don't work. On the contrary, I think actually probably all of them would work if you pick one and trust there's something for it and go into it in depth rather than width. I think, like most things in life, we want a width of experience when sometimes a depth of experience is what you're looking for. Same with relationships. Like, it's, isn't it? Like, you just think, I'm going to miss out. I need this woman, this woman, this woman, this woman, all these women. And actually, the beauty of a long-lasting relationship is the depth that comes with that decision to stay. And that decision to stay is trusted. You're trusted years, decades of your life into that, right? You have to trust. I believe to get what you want, you need to trust. And that's not just about what you receive from there. It's about, or what you want from your journey. It's about the aspects of your journey through the men's personal development field. You're going to come to a point where, be it a therapist, a facilitator, a healer, a teacher, a lecturer, whatever it is, you're going to come to a stage where if you really want to get it, you're going to have to go. There will be a moment where you go, right now, I have to trust this person. I have to trust that this person can help me find what I'm looking for. I have to trust that I'll be able to go there. I have to trust that if I put this in, I'm going to get this out. Right? How do I explain that a better way? Okay, I'm going to use a model that I use a lot, right? Which is the tree, the cut tree trunk with the rings on it, right? And I use that because I think our experience, our psyche, our lives, we grow outwards, right? We don't grow upwards. We don't go forwards. We don't go backwards. We become fuller, right? We become fuller. And if we were to cut that open, you'd see there's rings on it. And those rings, I call them, they're like elements of growth. Like I call them a point of initiation. And what I mean by that is, think about it. If you're learning or doing anything, there's going to be a point where you're at the edge of what you know. And everything, all the resources you have, all the people you know, all the knowledge you have, everything you have to learn, you've learned that all. And now to go the next stage, you're going to have to go leap into the unknown. That's the same with a job. That's the same with a marriage. You know, you ask someone to marry you, you're leaping into the unknown. You quit your job, you're leaping into the unknown. Now you can place your best bets. You can educate yourself as much as you think, I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure. But at some point, there comes a time where if you're going to grow, if you're going to get something different, you've got to do something different. And if it doesn't have a risk involved, it's not in a moment of initiation. It's too safe. So there has to be a risk that if to get something, especially in the men's personal development journey, if I'm going to get this, I might have to lose or give this up. That's a risk. And I don't know if that will work for me. I don't know if I can do it. I believe I can, but I don't know. I don't know if this is the right person to facilitate me. I don't know if this is the right program, but something inside me is telling me it is. So right in this moment, I'm going to have to trust. So just like in our lives, if I don't trust, if I go into fear, I wouldn't even leave the house. You know, driving a car, I have to trust the person who's coming towards me ain't going to swerve out and kill me. Right? Walking down the road, I have to trust that most of the people I meet are not psychotic killers. Otherwise, I wouldn't leave the house. So if that's same on the tiny level and same on the macro level, it's the same on the personal development journey, right? It's the same on that part. If I want something new, I'm going to have to take a step. I'm going to have to do something different. If I do something different, I don't know the outcome. So like night follows day, that means at some point I have to trust that this is the right time, the right place, the right person to do my work, to get what I need, right? And it's a big, big deal. It's hard to cultivate trust. And people will say, how do I know I can trust you? You don't. It wouldn't be trust. If you knew you could trust something, if you know you can trust something, it's not trust anymore, it's just knowledge. Trust has to have an element of risk. And men's personal development has to have an element of risk. Otherwise, it's just too safe. And if it's too safe, you are not going to get something significant out of it. You have to take a risk. You have to face a challenge at some point in your life, or it will not initiate you into a different way of being. Anyway, so all you need is trust. La, 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 la. Mr. Lennon, you were close, but not close enough. I'm out of here. Take care. Keep connected. Keep doing the work. Remember, personal development is an act of rebellion. All right. Take care. See you soon. Bye.